Welcome back to Canter Therapy Podcast. I'm Dr. Shelley Appleton. Now, in today's episode, I'm joined by Stacey Wallace, whose story is the kind that quietly dismantles the idea that you need decades of horse history, a pony club childhood, or the perfect first horse to become genuinely capable. I'm very proud of Stacey. I'm her mentor, and I have never seen someone transform themselves like I have watched Stacey. So this conversation is significant because it's honest. It shows what progress really looks like, not perfection, not magic methods, but discipline, repetition, good support, and the willingness to recalibrate when life throws you curveballs, or in Stacey's case, splint bones, a move, a meltdown, or a veterinary curveball. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take the time to go and hit subscribe so you never miss one of our conversations, and share this one with a friend who's trying to find their feet in the horse world. And just a quick note on support. The Canter Therapy Podcast is sponsored by Kat and myself through our businesses. If our work has helped you, the best way to support the show is to invest in our education resources, our books and clinics and events we run. That support keeps the podcast happening and keeps us producing practical, reality-based conversations that make a difference for horses and humans. All right, guys, let's get into this episode and meet Stacey. Good morning, Kat.
Good morning, Shelley. How are you this morning?
I'm very good, and I'm very excited to speak to our guest. This is someone that I've wanted to have on the podcast for quite some time now because they've got an extraordinary story. And so I'd like you to meet Stacey Wallace. Morning, Stacey.
Hi. Morning, Stacey.
Hello, everyone.
And the reason why I want everyone to meet Stacey and hear Stacey's story is I have never had someone transform themselves in such a rapid pace as Stacey. So I met Stacey nearly 3 years ago. I met Stacey through working through my programs, and I have never met someone so dedicated, so disciplined, that has been able to transform themselves from like a new horse owner in the beginner category to someone that's very proficient with horses after not even really 3 years. So, and there's some things about Stacey that are quite extraordinary. So I think people need to hear Stacey's story because stories are fascinating and inspiring, and you need to hear Stacey's. So Stacey, first question I want to ask you is like, how did you get interested or into horses?
Well, when I was 5, we moved on to 2 acres, and out the back, the neighbour out the back had a little Shetland, and his name was Starbuck. And this little pony, it was just a paddock smasher, but I fell in love with him, and I made my mum go out and buy me a grooming kit so I could groom my neighbour's horse, and we did all that, and I used to sit out there with him for hours and just love on him. And then we moved away. But it was quite a while. Like I was there for 10 years, and then we moved away. And it's sort of, I did a few lessons as a kid. And then, it just kind of got to the point where everyone knows the situation where a kid has too many hobbies.
Yeah.
And so my mum chose gymnastics or dancing, one of the two. And so the riding lessons got cut away. And so then I went on, carried on dancing and ended up cheerleading for quite some time. Then joined the military and pretty much got up into Darwin at my first posting, and I was like, I don't have any hobbies anymore because I had to leave everything, and couldn't restart the cheerleading up there because there was nothing up there.
Yeah.
And that's when my panic started about not having anything in my life. Then it was really that I had my son that I really said, oh no, I really don't have anything in my life. Like, I didn't want to show my kid that mothers had to sacrifice themselves for their children and for their families. So, about 3 months postpartum, I went and started lessons again. And I was, terrified. I thought, because I had a cesarean and everything, I thought that
yes.
like I was going to throw a leg over and pretty much, like the scaredy cat. Like I was like clinging onto the mane. Like I was like hunched over, like holding onto the side of the horse. And I thought I was going to push myself up and just flop off the side. That's where I was terrified.
That's really fast. Can I just pick into that a bit? Because that's really interesting. So were you scared of what might happen to your, the scars and the things from the cesarean, or was it just your lack of balance, or was it fear of being, because you're now a mother and you had to look after yourself? That was like, there's some pretty intense things going on. What do you reckon it was?
I don't think it was a little bit more selfish than that. It was more of an ego thing, I think, initially.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Because, I used to ride when I was 9.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't say I was a great rider, but I could ride.
Yeah.
And now I was like, my thought was that it's like riding a bike, right? As I'm going to get on and be able to go. And the fear came from, I'm not going to be able to get on and go.
Yeah, okay.
And
that's fascinating. Yeah.
That's going to be like, this is the thing that was going to bring me the joy back into my life.
Yeah.
And if I got on and fell off the side, I'd probably have spiraled.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
And made things worse. But it didn't happen. So
yeah, you went through that. Just you had riding lessons and got through that.
Yeah. So yeah, I got some riding lessons, and I just at the time, so I was recently discharged from the military on medical grounds. And so because of that, I was entitled to some forms of help to get me into back into society and back in with normal people. And so part of that was they funded some riding lessons for me.
Oh, that's good.
So it was about 12-hour-long lessons. So 12 weeks, 12 weekly lessons.
Yeah.
But I halved them. I made them half an hour lessons and did one a week for 6 months. However, that was only half an hour a week that I was in the saddle, and that was great. But I'm a dog with a bone. Once I get going on something, I can't let it go. So it would have been maybe about a month or two in, I said I need some more time in the saddle, so I'm going to look for a lease horse.
Yeah.
And I was just, I wasn't actively looking. I didn't put anything out there. I was a creeper on the community pages, and I found my friend who I'd met. I did a little bit of volunteer work at a horse rescue. And I met my friend through the horse rescue, and she had actually adopted 2 horses, a mother and foal, from the rescue. And she was currently riding / giving mum a good retirement. And her plan was to break in the baby and have that for her 3 kids for them to ride and for her to ride. And my friend, bless her, she stresses a bit. And this little horse, not the kind of horse for someone who stresses.
Yeah.
And so that just spiraled. Young Sally was chasing her out of paddocks. She was having a tough time with her. So, she put her up for a lease, and I spotted it on Facebook, and I just slid into the DMs. I said, "Oh, are you leasing one of your horses?" And she said, "Yeah, the younger one, Sally." And I was like, "Look, like I'm a new mum and everything, so I might not be the right fit for her, but I'm quite happy to come out and just love on her, and if that's something that you're open to." And she said, "Oh, yeah." So we came out, and I met this little horse, and she was beautiful, great with the kids, and I just thought, there's something about this horse. Anyway, so I did little stuff with her, like took her for walks and stuff like that, and she'd spook all over the place, and I didn't know where she was in my space. But anyway, her trainer at the time, April, came out and they were doing lessons. She wanted me to work with Sally just to see if we were going to be a good fit. And I didn't know this at the time, but later on I heard the story between the two of them. "Oh, this woman's probably not right for this horse. Like, she's a new mum," and this was coming from the trainer. And then the trainer actually came out and worked with us together, and it was like, "Yeah, she's good. This is good. This is a good move." So I took on the horse, just first off as a lease, and I had a hell of a time. It was not easy. It was not fun all of the time, but I did it, and I fell off a lot. But she wasn't my horse, right? So I was just learning the ropes and trying to figure it out. And then I do remember I was in the car on the way to Sydney for the weekend, and my friend rings me, who had previously said, "I will never, ever sell Sally because she's from the rescue." So here I was, like, I can unashamed just fall in love with this horse. It's not going anywhere. I may go somewhere because of the military, but I can always back and say hello and love on her whenever I want. Anyway, she rings me and she goes, "Look, I don't think I'm ever going to have the confidence that you have with her. So I think I'm going to sell her. And I wanted to offer her to you first." And my heart dropped, because that's not the first horse I was going to buy. I was smart in my head. I was going to buy like the old school horse, or something that had heaps of education, heaps of miles. Like, that was the horse I was going to buy for my first horse. But I'd fallen in love with this horse. And I was in Sydney that whole week, and then I cried all weekend, because I was adamant I'm going to have to say goodbye to this horse, because I can't afford to have two. Shock. Because now I have two. I can't afford to have two horses, and I really can't have this horse as my first horse owning.
Yeah.
And yeah. Well, the heart won out, because I bought the horse.
Of course you did.
Honestly, that's the best thing that I could have done.
Yeah, you're happy with that decision now?
I am happy with that decision, because I mean there's some questions now that are coming up now that her body is really struggling. But it led me to Shelley. So
how did she lead you to Shelley?
Because I was really struggling with her. I was, a common term I would use was she's batshit insane. Like, this horse, oh my gosh. I don't know where it come from, what happened. She's the sweetest little horse. But if you got off her mid-ride, whether it be on purpose or not on purpose, if you got off to fix a pole, if she'd knocked a pole over when you're doing some pole work, and you try and get back on, she would kick you. Like I would get off to fix a pole and I would try to get back on same way as I got on at the beginning of the ride, and she would kick out at me.
So she was like, ride's finished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
we're
my job's
done.
done. What do you mean? What do you mean you're trying to get back on? Like,
Yeah.
I'm done. And it wasn't until that one fall I had, which took me months, about 4 months to recover, where she spooked. She picked up all 4 feet and moved to the front right, and I just fell off the back.
Yeah.
And landed on my hip really badly. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh God, I've got to get back on this horse. I can barely walk, and I've got to get back on this horse. And I really should have gone to hospital.
Yeah.
But she was just, there was something about her that I could see potential,
Mm.
and I could see a partnership that I had to fight for,
Yeah.
that I knew I had to fight for. And it was actually my friend who rescued her that found Shelley. And she said, oh, it was one of your challenges.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was where you first did the website. It was the first lot of people that came in for the website. And so I jumped on, and I was like, didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I really don't even think I followed the challenge that much, if I'm totally honest.
That's all right. That's a common thing.
I was just happy to be around people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I stuck with it, and I did the courses, and now Sally is where Sally is now.
Yeah.
And I can put total beginners on her now. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Now, can we backtrack? Because I think you're always funny how old were you when you got Sally?
26.
Yeah. And you're funny because like I was so old when I got my first horse. And how old are you now?
29.
29. Yeah.
So
And
I wouldn't say old.
no, you're not.
Old, just later in life.
Later in life, you said, I've got horses, and horses so old. You'd say that. And I was like, mate, you're not old. You're not old. A lot of people are getting their first horses. It's a common story actually of people that ride when they're younger, when they're children or young teens, and then have a break and then get a horse again when they're in their 20s or 30s, 40s or 50s, and sometimes even 60s. And I'm sure there's someone out there that go, well, I got my first horse when I was in my 70s. So yeah, I think that's really cute about you. I got into horses. I got my first horse at 26. I really started late. And it's just like, really?
That's what you think of. Like,
I know. Yeah.
Like if you don't grow up in pony club, or if you don't grow up with a horsey family, that you are behind.
Yes.
And I've had to do a lot of work within myself to move past that.
Yeah. Have you found a lot of people who stories similar to yours? Like you've discovered that not everyone went to pony club?
I mean, other than my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few people, especially on the social media. There's a few people out there, but I haven't come across a whole lot of people. And of course, like when you're socializing with people at dressage competitions or just on outings, you don't really get. I mean, we're all focusing on our horses and staying.
That's right. You're not delving into like, when did you get your first horse?
Funny because I have the same. I didn't get my first horse till I was 13, and I missed out on pony club and all of those things. So I feel like I have a non-horsey family, so I feel like I missed out on all those things too.
Yeah, it's a very common thing, but no one ever talks about it.
Yeah, it's a bit of an assumption. When you do meet people that have been brought up in those systems or whatever, they don't see it as like everyone does that, and that's not the way. All right, Stace, I want to delve into a bit more because what was really extraordinary about you, although you must have done a challenge and not done it properly, from when we started working and you worked through my reboot process, right? And You're very meticulous through it. And along the way, we had some interesting conversations and stuff when I first picked up that I didn't think Sally was right and how you took that. But we'll get to that. But I just want to talk about the main thing, which is quite extraordinary about you, because I work with a lot of people in person, online, etc. And I can say that you can absolutely learn online, as there is a way to do it and support people, and you're like an evidence of that. However, you're extraordinary in your dedication. You were out there, you were disciplined, you did it. I gave you feedback, you go work on it meticulously. You also, came up with your own questions, etc., which when I look at you today, I'm so proud of you, because not only do you have like really good horse training and handling skills, you've got exceptional decision making and observation skills. So when you decide, hey, this happened and I did this, I've decided to do this. Like you tell me, you run through your experiments you did to overcome something. It's really good. However, I want to know why. Why was Stacey? She is an incredible learner, right? You were like, what do I have to do? Okay, and you took it on board and you really got it. Now I want to know, Stacey, why are you like that? Was it your military background?
Part of it was
cheerleading. What was it?
Well, yeah, a lot of that. I think a part of it was because I didn't grow up in pony club, so I felt like I had to work double time, triple time to catch up. But with regards to my dedication, I did cheerleading, and that is a very big team sport. And I used to have to lift, young girls in the air, and they had a lot of trust in us bases to keep them safe.
Yeah.
And I got very good at do not let that flyer's head hit the ground.
Yeah.
And that was
big responsibility. Yeah, wow.
And so in doing that, I got very good at sacrificing my safety, my health for another being.
Yeah.
Because if that fly was coming down, you'd be diving, you'd cop an elbow to the eye, you'd get bloodied lips or a bloodied nose to save that fly from hitting the ground.
Yeah.
So I've never been afraid. I learned very quickly to not be afraid of pain.
For doing the right thing.
For someone else's sake.
Yeah.
And so that played a lot of, I did get a lot from cheerleading, but I joined the military, and we are conditioned to ask how high when you say jump.
Yeah.
How high?
I thought this might have something to do with it. You've been given orders and you've done them, and it's just like, am I giving you orders and you're just doing them?
Yeah, to a point. And but then again, I've got another twist to me in that I question everything. And that is my military experience as well, because I was in the Air Force, and the Air Force is a little bit different in the sense that it does ask you to ask how high when they say jump, but they also want to create a smarter workforce. So they don't want how do I say this without offending people? They don't want mindless robots.
Yeah.
They want people who can make smart decisions. They can think critically.
Yeah.
And they can make decisions that will help. And part of that is asking questions. Like if someone asks you to do something and you in your head, you're going, oh, that's a bit stupid, isn't it? But instead of just saying that, you can work it through and more brainstorm. And so that's why when any bit of information comes to me, I question it and I ask questions. And that throws people off.
Didn't throw me off.
Yeah, I'm like, I love people that question because it means that they're thinking about the like connections and everything that you're talking about.
Mm. Yeah, so just I'm a bit like a dog with a bone though. If it's something that I'm really, really, really focused on and it's something I really, really enjoy, I can knuckle down on it and I can just tunnel focus on something.
Yeah, I can see you're someone, it makes sense now because I didn't actually know about, I knew that you did a lot of gymnastics and athletics and things like that. I didn't know you actually did cheerleading. I actually hadn't heard that before. But it also makes sense that you've got that real ability to understand practice and to understand that you start at something simple and you work your way up. I can see now it's all making sense. So the combination of like having like military training and that high precision of doing that under that high stake stuff and encouraging you to learn, plus this really fascinating background of doing something very complicated like cheerleading, dancing, extreme gymnastics that you have to practice and start. And you probably really understand the importance of basics or foundation and things like that and how it relates to doing the advanced stuff. So that makes a lot of sense about you now, about how you were someone that never got, or you might have grumbled about it a few times, but you were very good at what I call the continual art of refinement. Is that you're always willing that when you found a glitch in something, you weren't hard to encourage to go backwards. And now you just do it yourself and you're very good at being able to highlight things like, there's a glitch in this, so you go back and you spend time and you fix that. Yeah, so that's very fascinating about you. But let's talk about, because you taught me something, and you were the first person. I suppose it's because you spoke up about it. Well, as you know, a lot of problems that I discover in horses when people are trying to work them, the people are actually doing a completely appropriate thing. But because the horse is not 100% sound or they're struggling, the horse won't give the expected result. So they're trying to just say they've been working, riding the horse has got spooky or, it's struggling with its canter transitions or it's being reluctant or whatever. And then they decide to do something about it. So they get lessons or they decide to go and learn some groundwork or go to a clinic and it just doesn't work because the horse is just emotional all the time, right? So I learned that to identify these horses have something going on. So they can't be comfortable doing what you're asking them to do. So you won't get the response you're after. Anyway, you sent me some footage of Sally in the round yard and she was getting emotional. And I was able to have a look at her and we looked at it both ways and have a look that, she had some red flags that there was things going on. The fact that she was disunited, she was getting emotional. I think she would only canter. What was she doing? Can you remember what she was doing in there?
She wouldn't canter.
She wouldn't canter. Yeah. And I said something. I said, look, I just the way she's moving. Do you remember what I actually said? Because what I actually said and what that meant in your brain was very fascinating.
So initially this was when I first sent you the email, and I attached a handful of videos that I was actually quite proud of. And I was like, okay, because she did come a long way between when I first got her and
absolutely,
and what the photo videos I sent you. And I said, I just need a little bit of help to, move forward. And I can't remember the entirety of the email that you sent back, but there's a handful of words that you did say that stuck with me and made me spiral. I think this horse is unsound or something along those lines. And I had literally just paid the money for her and I thought I'd spiraled. I thought, oh crap, I've just bought a 3-year-old paddock ornament. Yeah. And I'm a once you've got the horse, you've got it for life. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna be caring for a horse for the rest of its life. And that could be 20 years. Yeah. That could be 25 years. I was like, oh dear. And I specifically bought this horse to have more saddle time. And I'm like, oh dear, like this is not aligning. going to have to put up with it. Like I'm going to have to I'm going to have to deal with it. But, that made me spiral. That's not what I was expecting.
No, yeah, okay, it wasn't what you were expecting. And so I think there was you sent me some round pen footage and stuff like that as well. I picked up something what was wrong. But you said something to me. You said something to me, which no one had ever said to me before. It was something along the lines, it's like, that's really rocked me or whatever. Because to me, it's like the horse is not comfortable. She probably just needs some shoes. It's so simple. To me, most of the time when it comes to soundness, it's normally Kat's department, which is the feet most of the time, about 80%, I'd say. And it's just something that is definitely not the end of the world. It's normally something quite simple, like the horse will just need some boots, or they need some shoes on, or, if it's an older horse, they might have a bit of arthritis and penazone injections will help them, or, just it's unlikely the end of the world. And it was a really good heads up for me about how I just see it as something that's an important thing, but it's not the end of the world. But I have to be able to convey that to people. And so it was because of you that I'm way more careful of how I actually do it. And I actually find now that it's better if I get the person to see it themselves first. Yeah. And that's also what you got very good at as well over time without me even having to say anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was an important part of our journey.
Because it was sort of interesting because then, I had Sally and I sort of really needed you to help me with everything. And then I got Zaza, and I still message you.
That's
and
all
I
right.
still ask for help. But with Zaza, I could very clearly see her joint discomfort. And so I went and got some foresight for her. And I didn't feel like I needed to get the okay from you this time. I just felt that that's what I needed to try.
Yeah. So let's go back to Sally, right? Because you worked through the program, you did all the loose rein stuff, and then learned how to pick her up. And we had this great moment in the middle of her transformation, which is where you came to 2 clinics. Do you remember that, when we actually met up for the first time?
Yeah.
We went to the clinic they held at Uncle's place in Nabiac in New South Wales. And it was one of the first times I think Sally had really done anything like that. And she really was quite stressy. She was super stressy. And so you didn't really get to show me what you'd been doing that clinic, right? And you were devastated about it. Yeah, go on.
I was, because this is the thing. I was like, Shelley, I have done this. And I'm like,
I know you had.
I did too.
And I knew you'd done it. But she travels, so she had to have a bit of a long float ride to get there. Then she's in a new place, and it was just she really got a bit of new home syndrome for a short-term stay on steroids, poor girl. Yeah. But then what was awesome is not even a year later, I can't remember how long, it was probably only about 6-7 months later, I was back again and you turned up again, and it was fabulous because it's just you damn well nutted out how to support her in that transition. You got, stress pace from Poseidon's animal stress pace. You gave that to her beforehand to settle a gut. Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line is you were the standout person at the clinic. So we went from one clinic where she was really quite unraveled and we could only do some work on the ground and not ride, to actually working on the most high-level contact stuff.
Yeah.
And that was brilliant. And I thought that part of your story is really about, that really shows you and the dedication. You were dedicated. You were going to go to this clinic and it was going to work. You nutted it out. I think you even did practice runs and tested things and things like that, but you were determined.
Oh, yeah. Because that second one, we had only just recently moved to the new property. And I was like, oh, God, here we go.
Yeah.
But so I took her to someone's property and just unloaded her and did some work and then went home. And so we did lots of practice runs and stuff like that. And
then it really worked.
It really did.
Yeah. And then
she was totally chill. And you know what? After that first clinic, we haven't had an issue since.
Yeah.
With Sally.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, very cool. No, so it was great. So the transformation I saw in you and Sally, and it went until you were able to go to your first competition.
Mm.
And that was so amazing.
And came home with the second.
You did.
I know.
No, it was really cool.
No, I was just going out for a day out. And,
Yeah.
and then that happened. I was like, whoa.
Yep,
Wasn't
you did
expecting
all
that.
that. So it was wonderful to Sally, who was emotional and could be spooky and wouldn't let you get back on, and who she actually transformed into.
Yeah.
And then she broke a splint bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's caused a bit of a problem from there.
We've now got another little lump on the back leg, which I'm saving up, because I mean that's the other thing. Like we're very much not a wealthy family, so I'm saving up to take her to the vet. She's had it for 6 months or so now, and it's not going away. It's not getting any bigger, so I'm saving up to get a ultrasound, I think it was.
Yeah.
Of it, just to make sure it's nothing.
Yeah, it could be because when we're talking offline, it's because she came from that rescue environment, and when she was younger, there's most likely this is becoming an impact. However, she also sent you down another rabbit hole, which was in Kat's department. Okay, so feet. Tell us about the journey she took you on with feet and working with Kat.
I think working with you, and you kept putting in my head, I think she saw in the foot. So the first clinic we looked, she had low heels and a little bit of a long toe.
Yeah.
And you said to me, "Oh, go talk to your farrier." And I remember speaking to my farrier, and he said, to be completely honest with you, he said, clinicians and coaches don't know bugger all about feet.
We know nothing.
And I was like, oh, okay, so there's nothing I can do to fix those angles. And he said, nah, that's just how she was born. And I said, oh, okay. Thanks for your opinion, you know. And so I went and spoke to someone else, because I thought, what's the harm, right? That's his professional opinion. I'm going to go find another professional and ask their opinion. So I asked around, I got a recommendation, and I messaged this lady, Lauren, her name is. And I messaged her and I said, look, this, you know, what are your thoughts? And she goes, look, it's not how I normally do things, but I am willing to try. I have done it before. Like I have had horse owners who said they want to bring those angles up. And she said they got really good results out of it. So I'm happy to try if you're happy to try. Just be mindful. They may be a bit sore. She might be a bit sore. That first sort of trim, because it's a little bit more drastic. And so I said, yeah, okay. So we did it, and I just sort of let her be a panic ornament for a couple of months while we just did groundwork. I didn't really do anything ridden. So over the next year, we really started to, we're in really wet conditions as well, though. So for a good 6 months of the year, she was standing in bog.
Yeah, it got very wet.
So very, very wet. And I mean, we didn't have any, there was definitely thrush there, but we didn't have any abscesses or anything like that. So, I mean, we were quite lucky in that regard. But yeah, I mean, over the 12 months, we did find a happy place for her where she was quite happy. And that was during that period was when we did the clinic with you, the competitions, you know, beach rides. That was all the period that we were with this trainer.
When you change those angles on her feet, made a difference.
So, and again, like I have a full set of scoop boots for her when we go trail riding and stuff like that. So she is protected when she needs it. And anyway, so then unfortunately with work, we moved to Wagga, and love Wagga. Don't get me wrong, loved Wagga, but it was really hard to find a farrier unless you wanted to drive. So I did find a farrier, and she went backwards. The second splint popped up. Or the lump on the back of her leg. We don't know if it's a splint or not. That popped up during that period. her performance went down, and that's when I put her onto spell. And I said, something's not right here. I'm done. Like I can't keep pushing this. And I just, again, first thing I thought of was feet. Right, the imbalance is setting off something in her body that's making her very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I went and saw Kat.
Yeah. And did that change what you can see?
It does. I could always see, after you pointed out the low heel, I could always see that. But she gave me confidence. And she she gave me confidence in the fact that I could pick up the foot and go, okay, that's definitely not balanced. And it gave me confidence in the sense that, like, so now that I'm back with that previous trimmer, Lauren, and so she does them once every 6 weeks, but in between, I can pick their feet up, probably do it once a week where I actually pick it up and have a look at it. And then on the 3-week mark, I sit there and mark out my little bits and bobs, and I take my photos.
I think we should probably explain what you mean by
my bits,
because it's what's Kat taught you to do. She's taught you to map, hasn't she?
Yes, mapping. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we learned how to map the foot to see when something isn't quite, like you might have heels, one's a little bit higher up, and you'll see that in the line. And we learned how to take photos, how to see, make sure your horse is standing properly and where they're load bearing. And we did notice on Sal that she does stand like this,
like base narrow, like her feet more close into her midline.
Yeah, and how and why that affects the foot and how it wears, and just how I can keep up with that so that she stays more comfortable.
You got your education on what Kat can give you on hoof and hoof health, and being able to map and being able to give them those tools where you can see it yourself. You don't have to go and get 63 opinions from someone that says that coaches and other trainers don't know what they're talking about. You can actually look and gather the evidence.
Are definitely people who don't know what they're talking about. You got to pick and choose,
I know that.
I was having a conversation the other day with another farrier, and they were saying, like, they were trying to explain to the owner that the horse is currently lame. This horse is sore, and I'd like you to get a second opinion. And they said, my instructor says that it's fine. And I'm like,
yeah.
That's really challenging in that situation when the instructor says that the horse is fine, but your farrier is really struggling with some lameness issues.
But this is what I do. This is how I tackle that, right? Because it's less. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion, but if you're asking mine, when there's this counter opinion, then it's my job to give you the evidence of why. What do I observe? So I don't care about their opinion. That's fine. They can have that. But this is what I'm seeing and why I'm rating it as this.
It is hard. I want to point out that it is hard to, as someone who had no idea what I was doing, had no idea how to handle things, and I didn't really have. I mean, I had people around me that knew, like, that were experienced with horses, and I don't know. I found it really hard to differentiate the BS from
how do you know
what is real. And this is another part of me, is that my gut instinct has never, not once ever, failed me.
Yeah.
And so I've had people who I really respected and I really trusted tell me things, and my gut feeling said, oh, don't follow that.
Yeah. No, that's actually a very interesting thing to talk about. So you used your gut.
On more occasions than I.
Yeah, because there's a minefield out there for people in your situation, getting into horses. Who the hell do you listen to? You're really stuck with, like, who you have those connections with, and it might be the people that own the feed shop where you go buy your feed, or the farrier or the trainer or the person local, or from your neighbor, but that doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about.
And the thing is, as well, is that there's so many experts.
Yes.
And at the same time, like there is a million ways to skin a cat. So like,
Yes.
even though there's people that are experts and like they have this knowledge, like the way I think of it is like I'm a very black and white person, and this is this is hard for horses, right? Because it's not always not always a straight answer, and there's not always a black or white answer. And the thing that frustrates me is that if I've got expert A over here and expert B over here, why do their things not make sense? Why do they contradict each other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why it's a grey area, because both of them are right in certain contexts.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be saying those things if they didn't have a reason to be saying them.
Just makes it very confusing and I suppose that's why I've doubled down on Shelley's framework, society, reboot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm there now.
That's all right. My process, yes.
Your process, because, and I am guilty of going out on YouTube and seeing stuff, but I always bring it back to Shelley and go, look, this is what I've seen this trainer do, or this professional do. I'm going to give it a try because I can relate it to what you've taught me.
Yes. And this is gold. This is what I want you to do, because what I teach you, whether the skills, they're like a getting in the door skill. You get good at that, right? And it gives you this insight and experience that allows you to look at something else and be able to make a decision. It's just like, yes, that makes sense. That aligns with the blueprint of how horses learn, or for what that makes sense what they're saying. So it allows you to then go and sets you free. That's my whole point. Yes. I work through this program. It's really not a lot of things to learn how to do, but you learn to do them to a very high level. So it's called the vital few. I use what's called the Pareto principle, which is with any skill set, there's 20% of the skills that you'll use disproportionately most of the time. And therefore, if you teach that particular 20% to a very, very high level, that's very effective at accelerating someone, right? So that's why I went and discovered the 20%. And then the methods that I picked were those where I really examined and understood the risks, right? Whatever method you pick or you show someone to do, there will be risk. So I had to take my cohort and look at that. Like, just say, for instance, a very skilled horse trainer, just say, can take a horse and be on its back in 3 days. Because they can mitigate all that risk that doing something in a rush can do. So if the horse gets worried that it might bark or something like that, they can hang on and they'll work through it, right? But most people can't do that. So I went and worked out all the methods, and I really understood the risk, because you just shift. Changing method just means you shift risk, right? You shift what could go wrong. So I went and found these, tried and tested these methods that were easy for people to learn, easy for horses to learn, and the risk I really understood and could prepare people for it, right? And then when I get people to work through those simple, that 20% little skill set of these methods that I picked and got people to a very high level, it then puts a good foundation on both the person and the horse. And then it also sets them up to set them free. So you can go damn well look at YouTube, you can go off to a clinic, and you can make decisions, which you're very, very good at. Because I have many methods. I watch YouTube and everything as well. I love seeing what other people do and how they handle things. Like, I'm always collecting. I've got the biggest toolbox ever to collect things of different ways and methods of approaching things. So I set people up to be able to do that themselves. So that's why, I totally encourage it. Go look at YouTube. Go look at another trainer. I want you to be free and to do that, but I want you to be discerning about it. Because how do you know? Because there's all these different philosophies, theories, opinions, methods, etc. And then when it comes to the experts, they've all got this varying level of competence about them. So you've got these two things. That's what you're saying. there's all these experts, but depends whether the expert's actually competent or delusional, like what actually are they? And then it's the method or the theory or the belief they're setting. So there's these criteria that will mean it is a minefield out there of who you go and learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I hope I've achieved, and I'm glad you dabble, is that you're able to look at something and go, yeah, that makes sense. That relates to what Shelley does, but that's like a little bit different in this way. I'm going to give it a crack, and it's just like, yes, that's my dream. That's my plan.
Yeah. And sometimes it's also like hearing someone else, another expert, say something.
Yes, slightly different.
And it sounds totally alien, right? It sounds so different, out of this world, different from anything you've ever heard from you or Joe Blogs down over there, right? But then I bring it back to you and I say, oh, what, like, and you go, oh, yeah, no, that's just this, right? You simplify it.
Mm.
Like what over here, it sounds all fancy and the next best thing. And I bring it back to you and you go, oh yeah, no, that's just, that's just this. Yeah. And I just go, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it is making it easier to translate different people and their terminologies by having someone like you who is able to translate it for me.
Yeah, well, you're doing a very good job at it yourself. Now, I want to bring you to the part of the story. So, in a nutshell, you got Sally. She was not the appropriate horse for you, whatever. You knew that, but you worked through it. And you were able to create this really solid foundation on this little horse that you could go off and enjoy when she's got injured, right? However, another horse came into your life, and this was cool, right? Because I got to witness you applying what you've learned from Sally with Miss Zaza. So tell us about that.
I also don't think that Zaza was the right horse for me either.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're taking on, you're learning. It's interesting. You've gone from like a young horse to an older horse that had issues. So you're using the opportunity to learn.
I think this is my thing that I'm learning about myself, is that I've got this notion in my head that I think has been drummed into me by the equine influencers and coaches and instructors and stuff like that, is that when you are new to the world of horses, you get yourself a bomb-proof old plotter that's, doesn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I still have in my head that I should have bought a bomb-proof plotter that doesn't do anything, right? And I still in my head think getting Zaza was not the right decision for me. But I think I have to change that thought now, because I don't think the bomb-proof plotter is actually the horse that I want or need.
They're also a bit of a myth too.
I was going to say, do they even exist?
Yeah, because the bomb-proof plotters, lots of people buy bomb-proof plotters and they turn into exploding, anxious horses because they're bomb-proof plotters when you've got a level of proficiency.
Yeah, so I found out I was moving to Wagga and I thought new home syndrome would be made easier if she had a paddock buddy.
Yeah.
So she was in a herd at the time and there was Zaza who was in that herd. And her owner just didn't have time for her. She hadn't seen her in a very long time. And the property owner was sort of in my ear saying, oh, yeah, I think she was looking at selling her. I said, oh, well, can you let her know that I might be interested? So, yeah, we worked it out. So I've got her on essentially a free lease for 12 months, giving me a bit of a trial period with her. So Zaza and Sally, they came out of the herd together for about a couple of weeks, and then we moved to Wagga. And that didn't pan out the way I expected it.
No, it really did. They had an incident that was quite eye-opening. You might want to tell people what happened there.
So Zaza has kicked Sally in the kidney, and she's had a huge internal hemorrhage, huge, like she nearly died.
Yeah, wow. And how did it get picked up? Because it was weird.
I just went out because like they were coming out in bites and kicks, and I sort of let them be for a few days because I was like, it's just new home syndrome. They'll sort it out. They were not sorting it out. So I thought I'll just go put a line of hot wire up the middle of the paddock and separate them for a minute. And I went out there. It was 38 degrees. And Sally, who is like a golden retriever, usually follows me up and down the paddock while I'm doing the fencing. She doesn't leave my side. She was just sort of sitting in the shade. And I thought, oh, that's a bit odd, but it is 38 degrees, so maybe she's just chilling. That night, didn't eat her food. That big red flag. And then I sort of, when she didn't eat her food, I really looked at her and she was panting like a dog. And I thought, oh, well, that's a bit odd. And then, so I sat there and looked at her for a little bit longer, and she was like reaching around to her belly, and she was like stomping her back legs. And I thought, oh, shit. Now, I've never dealt with colic before, and I thought colic. So I jumped on the phone. This is like 7:30 at night to the vet in town. And I said, oh, look, I think we've just got a little bit of mild colic. This is the symptoms. And he said, oh, yeah, sounds a bit like mild colic. I'm not doing house calls at the moment, like out to the field. But if you can, I've got another colic coming in now. If you can bring her in by 9:30, I will look at her. And I said, oh, shit. Okay. I moved here like 2 weeks ago. My horse float is 20 minutes away at home, full to the brim with crap to take to the dump, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm not going to be able to get this horse. Anyway, rang my husband. He's gone and unloaded the entire float for me to get this float to get this horse to the vet for what I thought at the time was a mild colic. And yeah, so he's hitched up. He's bringing the float to me, and the car breaks down on the highway with the float attached to the back of the car. So something was really, really stopping me from going into the vet. Anyway, about 9:45 or something, he rings me and he goes, okay, well, I'll come out to you. Anyway, he came out and he did her heart rate first. And then he did it again. And then he did it again. And then he did it a fourth time. And he goes, yeah, her heart rate's supposed to be, what is it, like 30 or 40 beats per minute? It's over 100. Whoa. So this is not good. Her temperature wasn't up that much. Her respiratory rate, you could see that it was up. So he goes, because of the heart rate and the respiratory rate, he goes, I want to ultrasound her lungs because the breathing. So he gets the ultrasound out. And at this point, we're still not really too worried. So we're all sort of just talking, and he goes, look, I don't think it's a mild colic. And I said, oh, thank God. And he goes on, this is not good. And I was like, oh. So he diagnosed her with pleural pneumonia. So travel sickness, fluid on the lungs. And the prognosis for that is not good. He said, you're looking at a minimum of $15,000 just to get her through the night, and she might not survive. Like, there's like a 5% chance that she'll survive. He recommended to put her to sleep in the paddock with her friend. And I looked at this horse, and she doesn't look ill. She doesn't look like she's dying. And I just couldn't do that. I said, is she in pain? No, she's not in pain. All right. Is there anything you can do for her? Oh, it's an infection, so we can give her an antibiotic. I said, all right, can we give her the antibiotic? I'm going to go home, separate myself from the horse, because looking at her, she didn't look sick. So I was like, I can't make a decision standing right next to her. So he gave her the antibiotic, and she damn nearly died right then and there. She had a bad reaction to the antibiotic. But anyway, antibiotic went in. We put her back out in the paddock, and I went home for the night. And I sort of only made it 10 minutes down the road before I had made my decision. I said, right, I'm putting this horse down, right? This is where we're at. my husband, he was feeling terribly guilty. He felt like because we were down here for his work, this is why it's happened. It's his fault. So he was like, Stacey, we've got about $30,000. If I sell my car and do that, we can do it. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, I can't do that to my family. I can't spend that amount of money on my horse. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put this horse down. But before I do, I'm going to get a second opinion. So I only left Sally 10 minutes ago and I'm on the phone. It's a Saturday night. I said to the ladies at Wagga University Hospital, I rang them and said, I've made a decision that I'm going to sleep on it and I'm going to bring her in the morning when everyone's got a clear head. We've had some sleep and I'm just going to get a second opinion. If it is pleural pneumonia, I will put her down with you guys. So slept on it, came out the next morning and she's grazing. And I'm walking her around and I've rung the vet to let them know that we're coming. And she goes, okay, what are her symptoms? I said, well, she's actually grazing. And she goes, oh, that doesn't sound right. Horses with pleural pneumonia are usually very, very critically ill. Like they're not grazing. And I was like, something, my gut feeling was like tingling. So we had to delay our departure for half an hour because they were dealing with a pleural pneumonia case at the time. So we ended up getting there. They took bloods and she said to me, she goes, look, I'm not going to lie to you. These bloods do not make sense. It's not lining up. And my gut feeling was like, hello. And the vet goes, oh, I wouldn't get your hopes up because it could just be a secondary thing.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? I said, well, first and foremost, confirm the pleural pneumonia because once we confirm the pleural pneumonia, there's no real point. If there's something secondary going on as well, that reduces her chances of survival again. So she went and did the ultrasound. She's this tiny little vet and it was so quiet for about 10, 15 minutes. And then she pops her head up over her withers, over her neck and goes, well, I'm going to scan the other side, but I'm like 99.9% sure that it's not pleural pneumonia. So, yeah, it turned out what the vet had seen the night before was actually fluid in the lung cavity, but just that the lung had been pushed up.
Yeah, okay.
So
her kidneys had been kicked and there'd been blood there. She was hemorrhaging.
Yeah. So, yeah, we found out about a week and a half later. Fun fact, when a horse bleeds internally into their abdomen, they reabsorb it. So you don't have to drain the blood or anything. It's simple. They just reabsorb it and carry on with life.
So she survived that.
She survived that and then colicked.
That's right, she did too.
Yeah.
And then survived that.
I don't know how.
So hence she's been on she's been spelled and everything like that. She's
been spelled. We've moved back up to the Hunter. And the girls, they've been perfect. I mean, this time I didn't take risks. I put a big round bale in their paddock. They've always got some form of forage because I learned from that, right? That was one of the precursors to the resource guarding that started the fighting. And it worked out in the sense that I learned a very, very hard lesson.
You did. That's so, mate, Kat, have you ever heard of a horse suffering that before? I never have.
No, I haven't.
Can see why it would happen, but geez, normally, it's like they take a kick. I know there can be ribs broken and things like that, but wow, like something that was a real eye-opener for me as well. Now, let's wrap up by just talking about Miss Zaza. So you got her as a paddock ornament, but because Sally had these extreme things happen to her, she became your riding horse. So you started unpicking her, an older mare.
Yeah.
Like she's 19 years old, is that correct?
Yeah.
Hadn't been ridden for a long period of time. How long was it?
I think it's about 4 years. She hasn't been ridden for.
So you just brought her back into work, which has been like a really fascinating experience that you've navigated again really well.
It has been super fascinating. And she's a totally different horse. Like I thought Sally was responsive. Then I got Zaza and realized that Sally is actually as dull as a doornail, right?
In comparison. So she's an Andalusian.
She's an Andalusian. Yeah, she's got a lot of separation anxiety. Her body she's lost quite a lot of top line and a lot of her core strength.
Yeah.
And from what I can see in her body, I can imagine that she's always been a leg mover. Like she does the nice, pretty high legs and everything, but she doesn't engage her hind end. She's all the glute muscles are all sort of wasted away, and the hamstrings are quite pronounced.
Yeah.
And you can see even in photos from her when she was younger that she has a lack of glute muscle there as well. So I can see that I'm kind of pushing shit uphill.
Well, you've been doing it's good experiment.
It's a huge experiment, and the thing is, she's been moving this way for 19 years, and so I can't expect huge improvements. I have made heaps of improvements. There is definitely improvement there, but I know that I'm not going to get like a Sally out of her with regards to muscling and stuff like that. But there is definitely improvements.
And you just quickly tell us what you couldn't do with her, but you can do now. So could you take her on a bush ride initially?
I was terrified of trail riding.
Okay, so you built your confidence together.
So, yeah, we really did. With the separation anxiety, when I leave the paddock, she's really hard to get away from Sally. Like I've got to use both legs. And I've got to really hold her in a frame and say, no, these are the train tracks we're on, and we're on these train tracks. There is no deviating. And she'll go very reluctantly. But as soon as we get far enough away from Sally, she's like, okay,
yeah,
good.
She lets go.
She's like, good. And like wherever you point her nose, she'll go.
Yeah.
On a Monday morning, my son was at preschool. In Wagga, we lived across the highway. There was a huge park, and of a Monday, I'd get on and we'd go out, we'd cross the highway, and we'd just get lost. For hours we'd be out there. And Zaza was just perfect. She would do anything but the right can lead.
Yeah.
I'd point her up a big hill like that and she'd just go. And she was just awesome. And she really made me confident in going out.
Yeah.
She's improving my confidence. Like she does get into a rhythm. She has a really nice rhythm. So she's helping me with my seat, my position in the saddle. And then she's also reinforcing everything that I learnt with Sally. And so we've just had a bit of time off over Christmas, and I've made the decision I'm going to bring Zaza, do the whole reboot again. So start in the round yard and start again. Because that's the same thing with Sally. I always felt like I'd start the reboot from the beginning and I'd get to a certain point and feel like I felt like I needed to go back.
Yeah, because you understand that she had little glitches and to go back and to continue a lot of refinement. That's just that happens all the time. That's actually training horses, is going forward, finding out where there's some glitches, going backwards to make those glitches disappear, and then going forward again. That's what, and it must be exactly the same if you think back to your cheerleading or having to go back and strengthen something or to work on something that happened before it to set the horse up to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the joy of it, right?
That's it.
You gotta fall in love with the process. Otherwise, the process can be if you're not in love with the process, it can be quite disheartening.
Yeah, because people think you own a horse, you just get on, you go and ride it. No. You got to learn all about it, which you've just taken us on this great journey of learning how to work with them, learning how to feed them, making mistakes along the way, experience issues and vet bills and all that along the way, working out who to listen to, who not to listen to, educating yourself about things that matter, like feet with Kat, and getting your own skills, because relying on who you got access to is not necessarily the best. Yeah, so we're very grateful for you sharing your real story.
I saw something the other day that was like, when you're following your navigation, when you're following Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever you're following, and you make a wrong turn, that the navigation system doesn't say, oh, you've made a wrong turn. It just says recalculating.
Yeah.
And that's something I've really taken on board, is that like when I feel like I have to go back with Zaza because I feel like we've gone too far and there's some glitches, and I've taken her too far with those glitches, and I'm hitting road blocks. So I feel like I have to go back. But it's not actually having to go back. It's just we're just rerouting.
That's right. Rerouting to go find a different, smoother way up the mountain. Anyway, Stace, thank you so much for talking to us and sharing your story. And we're very grateful for that.
Thank you. I'm so honored.
Have a good rest of the day, and I'll talk to you soon. See you, Stace.
Bye.